While walking through the mall, Ellen Carter, a janitor in uniform, paused in front of a public karaoke booth that was set up for anyone to use. A few people gathered around, some watching the screen, others chatting among themselves. Without thinking twice, she approached the attendant standing nearby. "Excuse me, can I sing?" she asked. "Sure, ma'am," the attendant replied kindly, handing her the remote and song list. Ellen didn't want to impress anyone. She wasn't looking for attention or applause. She needed to let go of the heaviness in her chest, and singing was her only escape. Just 2 weeks ago, her world shattered when she found out her boyfriend of a year had a secret. He was married with children. She had overheard him on the phone talking to his wife. That moment wrecked her. "Thank you. I just need to sing out my broken heart," she joked to the attendant with a sad smile. Her eyes betrayed the pain behind her smile. She took a deep breath and selected a song. After getting the mic from the staff, she faced the scattered onlookers who barely paid her any attention. "This one's for everyone who's been heartbroken," she said quietly. As the melody of "If You Only Knew" by a local band began to play, Ellen closed her eyes. The first line hit hard, and her emotions poured into every word. By the time she reached the chorus, people began turning their heads toward her. "If you only knew that I still love you, but I can't, because you already have someone new." Her voice trembled with raw feeling. Some passers-by slowed their steps. Some stopped altogether. The pain in her song wasn't just hers. It resonated with many of them. She thought about her ex. There were moments when she considered taking him back. Sometimes the loneliness became too much. But every time she thought about the woman he was married to, his child, her conscience stopped her. She knew she had no right. She refused to be the other woman. When the song ended, the crowd erupted into applause. Ellen smiled, more out of politeness than joy. "Miss, can you sing Letting Go next? It's my anthem these days," a woman in the audience called out. "I don't have your voice, so can you do it for me?" Ellen gave a soft laugh. "Sure, that one suits me too." She searched for the song, selected it, and once again let her heart bleed through the lyrics. Her voice cracked at the bridges, and some people in the crowd teared up, clearly touched by her sincerity. Requests started pouring in after that, but Ellen gently declined. "Thank you, but I think I've sung too much already," she said, handing the mic back to the attendant. The staff looked genuinely moved. People clapped once more as she started to walk away, until someone suddenly stood in her path. A little boy, 5 or 6 years old. "Hi, miss. My name's Noah. Can you please sign this?" he said, offering her a sheet of paper. Ellen smiled warmly, assuming he was just a fan. "Oh, you're adorable. Did you enjoy my singing? Want an autograph?" "No," the boy replied matter-of-factly. "It's a marriage contract. Can you be my uncle's wife?" Ellen blinked in confusion. "Wait, what?" "A marriage contract," Noah repeated earnestly. "Please sign it." Ellen scratched her head awkwardly. "That's a strange game, Noah. Don't you want to play something more fun, like cars or superheroes? Marriage isn't a kid's game." "It's not a game, miss," he said firmly. "I'm really looking for a wife for my uncle." She bent down slightly. "Where's your guardian, Noah? Are you here by yourself?" "I'm with my uncle. He's over there." The boy pointed in the direction of the supermarket. Following his gaze, Ellen saw a short, chubby man gathering carts. He wore a faded t-shirt and looked like he hadn't slept in days. She chuckled to herself. Of course he needed help getting married. If his looks were anything to go by, he probably didn't have women lining up to date him. But Ellen had never believed looks or status were what made someone worth loving. "My uncle's single," Noah said proudly. "If you marry him, no one's going to fight you for him." Ellen laughed and shook her head. She was oddly touched by the boy's sincerity. Maybe if she'd stayed with her ex, she would have ended up in constant fights with the guy's legal wife. But that wasn't her story anymore. Still smiling, she said, "Why me, though, Noah? There are so many other people in this mall. Can't you see my uniform? I'm just a janitor here. What if your uncle isn't into women like me?" "You're a great singer," Noah replied, "and I think you're kind, too. I'm sure my uncle will like you." Ellen sighed and looked at her watch. She had 10 minutes left before her 2 p.m. shift started. Her supervisor was notoriously grumpy and wouldn't accept any excuses. "All right, Noah, I don't even have a pen," she said, trying to end the conversation. "I do," Noah said, pulling one from his pocket excitedly. Seeing how serious he was, Ellen gave in. She took the pen and the paper. To her surprise, it was an actual marriage contract, with a groom's name already filled out. Vince Calvers. "Sounds rich," she muttered, then glanced again at the man collecting carts. He looked anything but. She signed the document with a fake smile. "There, all done. Can we go see your uncle now?" "Yes, thank you," Noah beamed, gripping the paper with joy. As they walked toward the man in the faded shirt, Ellen called out, "Sir!" The man turned to her, his expression tired and grumpy. "I just wanted to return your nephew," she said. "He was walking around alone. Be careful not to let him wander. This mall's pretty crowded. If you're busy, maybe have someone else watch him." She turned to Noah. "And you, no more playing matchmaker, okay? Stay close to your uncle next time." Without waiting for a reply, Ellen walked away, shaking her head and chuckling at the strange encounter. She had no idea she had just signed a real marriage contract with the CEO of the mall. As Ellen walked away, a tall man stepped out from behind a large mall standee near the arcade booth. He quickly approached Noah, who was now being scolded by the tired-looking man. "Boss, sorry, I'm the one watching him," the newcomer said, gently pulling Noah away. "Buddy, mission accomplished?" Noah gave him a proud thumbs up. "Yes, Daddy Lewis. Uncle Vince won't have to search for a wife anymore. I found one for him." Lewis took the marriage contract from Noah, smiling as he high-fived the boy. "You did great, buddy. Let's go bring this good news to your uncle." They headed straight to the 4th floor of the mall, the executive wing reserved for mall management. After walking through a corridor marked "Authorized Personnel Only," they arrived at a tinted glass door with a sleek metal plaque that read, "Calvers Corporation, Main Office." Louis swiped an access card, and the door opened into a modern, sleek office. "Uncle Vince!" Noah shouted, grabbing the attention of the man seated behind the executive desk, reviewing documents. The man leaned back in his black leather chair, sharply dressed in a charcoal gray 3-piece suit that accentuated his tall, athletic build. His presence radiated power and control. He set aside the papers and raised a brow. "What are you two doing here?" "We solved a problem, Dad and I," Noah replied. Vince gave Louis a questioning look. "What problem?" Smiling, Louis handed over the marriage contract signed by Ellen. "We found someone willing to marry a man who doesn't care about appearances or wealth, just like your ideal woman." He placed the contract on Vince's desk. Vince picked up the paper and fell silent as his eyes landed on the signature. "Ellen Carter," he read aloud. "Who is she?" he asked, still gazing at the name. Lewis took a seat, while Noah happily hopped onto a lounge chair near a potted plant and the office's glass wall. "She's a janitor with an amazing voice. You can look into her if you want, investigate her, or better yet, get to know her. Noah chose her to be your wife." Vince turned his attention to Noah, who was clutching a throw pillow and smiling proudly. "She's kind, Uncle Vince. She didn't flinch when I pointed to that chubby guy earlier and told her he was you. She even sang beautifully. Vince leaned back and sighed. So you really went through with this idea, Louis, finding a wife to solve my problem. I didn't do much, Louis said with a shrug. I just took Noah to the mall while he looked for your chosen wife. But honestly, she's not bad. Beautiful, charming, and she's got a warm presence. I think you'll grow to like her. I don't need love, Vince said flatly. Just a wife. He glanced again at the contract. Does she know this is a real marriage contract? Nope, Louis answered. She probably thought it was a joke. Or that Noah was just a fan asking for an autograph. I mean, who would expect a kid to carry a legal document? Vince stared at the contract in silence, processing everything. Then we'd better make sure she's safe, he finally said, because if this goes wrong, we're dragging an innocent woman into a storm. He stood and walked to the window. I need a wife, not just to secure the Calvers' fortune, but to prove to the board that I don't need the woman they're pushing on me. They're using my bachelor status to control me. Just because I'm newly seated as CEO, they think I'm easy to manipulate. He turned back toward Louis. I know the type of woman they're trying to set me up with. She's from the elite class. She wants my money. That kind of woman is dangerous. What's your plan now? Louis asked. I'll get to know this Ellen Carter, but I want her to meet me just as Vince, not Vince Calvers, CEO of Calvers Corporation. I'll test her, see if she's truly worthy of being my wife. Once I'm sure, I'll tell her the truth about who I am and the marriage contract she signed. Louis nodded. If you need backup, Noah and I are here. Thanks, Vince said. But for now, I'll handle this alone. The next few days passed slowly for Ellen. She still carried a heavy sadness in her chest as she worked. One evening, she was sweeping the hallway leading to the east wing of the mall when she noticed a man lying on a bench. He wore a hoodie pulled low over his face and a baseball cap. His jeans and sneakers looked a little dirty. Ellen walked closer. Excuse me, sir? She said softly. The man sat up suddenly, startled. Yes, miss? The mall is closing soon. You might get locked in. I'll leave, don't worry, he said, quickly standing, though he stumbled slightly and grabbed her arm for balance. She instinctively caught him, letting go of her broom to support his weight. She helped him sit back down on the bench. He kept his head down, unmoving. Are you okay, sir? She asked, crouching slightly to try and see his face. She reached for the hoodie but froze when he suddenly looked up at her. You scared me, she gasped. I thought you fainted or something. I'm just sleepy, miss, he replied. I came here from the countryside to try and make something of myself, but I ran out of money before I could even find a job. Can I stay here tonight? I don't have anyone in the city who can take me in. You can't sleep here, sir, Ellen said firmly. We'll get in trouble. Rumor has it our new CEO is cruel, and I don't want to be the example he uses. Where did that rumor come from? He asked, his tone suddenly sharp. Ellen furrowed her brows at his strange tone, but brushed it off. I just heard it from people, and honestly, I don't care if he's the worst person in the world. What matters to me is keeping my job, so please leave, sir. I don't want to get fired just because I let someone sleep here. She picked up her broom and resumed sweeping, ignoring the man, but after she finished cleaning, she was surprised to find him still sitting there. I already told you to leave, didn't I? Do you really want me to lose my job? She asked irritably. I don't know where else to go, miss, he said quietly. Someone told me it's dangerous to wander around the city at night. Please let me stay a little longer. You're being stubborn, Ellen snapped. If security sees you here, they'll throw you out. Why don't you just stay at my place for the night? She let out a frustrated breath. She was exhausted from work and didn't want to argue anymore. Come with me, she said, turning her back to him. Silently, the man, Vince, followed Ellen. This was his first real interaction with her, and he was disappointed. She trusted him too quickly. In his world, that kind of gullibility would get her hurt. She wouldn't survive long if she was this easy to fool. Maybe she wasn't suited to be his wife after all. "Is it far to your place, miss?" he asked as they walked for several minutes. "We're here," she replied. Vince looked around. There were no houses in sight, only a police station. "You live at the precinct?" "Of course not," she said, rolling her eyes. "But if you're scared to sleep outside, this is where you'll stay. There are officers inside who can keep an eye on you." "I can't bring you home. We don't have the space. And besides, I don't know you. I don't trust strangers, especially not ones I've just met. There are too many liars out there. You might be one of them." She motioned for him to enter, then turned to leave. "Wait, miss," he said, grabbing her arm. She shook him off. "Don't add to my problems, mister. If you don't want to sleep in the station, that's your choice. You've got a body built like a linebacker. You'll be fine. If anything happens, just fight back." And with that, she walked away and flagged down a passing taxi. Vince sat on the bench outside the station and chuckled softly. She had him all wrong. She had no idea who he really was. And yet, she had chosen to take him somewhere safe, even if she was being tough about it. She didn't trust easily, but her heart was good. She hadn't shown even the slightest reaction to his looks. No spark of admiration, no swooning. Impossible, he thought. Most women couldn't look at him without staring. She had even held his face in her hands. And still, nothing. No wonder Noah picked her. She was the only woman who had ever looked straight at him and seen nothing but a stranger. And somehow, that made her all the more intriguing. He raised a hand as if giving a signal, and a few moments later, a sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up beside him. The uniformed driver rushed out and opened the door for him. "Take me back to the Calvers estate," Vince ordered, sinking into the back seat and closing his eyes. The following day, Vince attended a board meeting with prominent shareholders and senior executives of Calvers Corporation. He sat at the center of the front row, dressed sharply in a black tailored suit, holding a tablet filled with the latest financial reports. While others discussed upcoming expansions, attention soon shifted toward him. "Mr. Calvers," began Mr. Kai, the chairman of the board, "our projections for the next expansion look promising, but there's another matter we can't delay any longer. May we address it now?" Vince set down his tablet and looked up. "I'm aware, Chairman. If this is about the Singaporean investor, I've already—" "Not the investor deal, Mr. Calvers," Mr. Kai interrupted. "We're referring to your marital status, specifically your bachelorhood." Board members exchanged glances. Despite no one speaking up directly, it was clear they all agreed. "My marital status?" Vince asked with a scowl. "Since when did that become a business agenda?" "Let's not pretend," said a woman board member. "The investors we're courting are conservative. They value family, stability, and long-term leadership, especially in a family-owned empire like Calvers Corporation. They expect a settled man," another added, "not a bachelor with a reputation for avoiding commitment. If you can't commit in your personal life, why would they trust you with long-term business partnerships?" "You're turning 35, Mr. Calvers," said Mr. Kai. "This delay has gone on long enough. Consider Mary Karina Sevilla. You've met her before. Her family owns the international shipping company we're negotiating with. Marrying her could ease those negotiations." "She's not someone I plan to marry," Vince replied firmly. "You don't need to love her," said the older woman. "You just need to make it work, for the company." Vince sat up straighter. His voice didn't waver. "With all due respect, I won't marry just to strengthen investor confidence. I can manage and grow this company without using marriage as leverage. I'll marry the woman I choose." This isn't about you anymore, Mr. Calvers, Mr. Kai said gravely. It's about protecting your father's legacy. If we can't assure stability in your personal life, the board may reconsider your leadership and vote you out as CEO. Vince exhaled deeply. He knew the board had the authority to remove him. Their support was critical, but he also wasn't willing to accept a marriage arranged purely for corporate gain. Give me 1 month, he said. I'll resolve this on my own terms. No one objected. After the meeting, Vince spent time at a coffee shop on the mall's ground floor. He reflected on the pressure from the board, frustrated by how much weight his personal life carried. Then a voice broke his thoughts. A woman was singing near the public karaoke setup, and her voice was mesmerizing. Vince closed his eyes briefly. Her voice calmed his storm of thoughts. He then overheard 2 baristas chatting near the counter. She's really amazing, right? One whispered. She's been singing at that booth for days now. I wait just to hear her. If I owned this mall, the other said, I'd give her a platform inside. It would draw people in instantly. But the problem is, no one knows who the new CEO is, the first one added. He hasn't introduced himself, and rumor is, he's kind of a jerk. He might not approve even if people request it. Vince heard that and smiled to himself. Where had that rumor come from? He turned to look at the karaoke area, but a crowd blocked his view of the singer. So, he simply listened. As the crowd erupted in applause, people began to part, and Vince finally caught a glimpse of the woman, walking away with a shy smile. Ellen Carter. She's the singer, he whispered, watching her in awe. No wonder Noah was drawn to her. She has a voice that reaches the heart. He smiled to himself as he left the coffee shop. There was work to be done, and he only had a month. After her shift, Ellen dragged herself out of the mall, like a wilted flower. She was completely drained. One of her co-workers had suddenly gone AWOL, and Ellen had to cover the extra workload. Miss Janitor. Startled, she stopped when the man she had dropped off at the precinct the night before suddenly appeared in front of her. What's your problem? She asked, surprised. The man grinned, revealing even, pearly white teeth. I've been waiting for you. And why exactly have you been waiting for me? Need another ride to the precinct? No, not that, he said, with a slight chuckle. I was just wondering if you knew of any jobs I could apply for. You're the only person I know around here. We're not friends, and I'm not a job agency, she said flatly. She walked past him toward the bus stop, but he followed. I'm Vince, by the way. What's your name, miss? She ignored him and quickly got onto a waiting bus. He followed and sat beside her. Miss, don't talk to me. I'm exhausted, she snapped. Vince went quiet for the rest of the ride. The bus was so packed that Ellen could barely sit properly. Half of her seat was taken by Vince's leg, and she was practically sitting on his lap. She endured the discomfort until they reached her stop. She got off the bus, but once again, Vince followed. Sir, your fare, the conductor said to Vince. I don't have money, Vince replied. What? The conductor exclaimed. You got on this bus without fare? Hey, miss, the conductor called to Ellen. Pay for your boyfriend's fare. He's not my boyfriend, Ellen said sharply, continuing to walk. But the conductor grabbed her arm, nearly causing her to stumble. Vince was quick. He moved behind her and caught her, steadying her against his chest, with his hands on her shoulders. Easy there, boss, he said. She's a woman. You don't have to be rough. How much is the fare? Can I owe it? I'll pay you once I get a job. What do you think this is? A convenience store? We don't do credit. Pay now or I'll bring both of you to the police. What kind of guy are you? Ellen snapped at Vince. You don't even have $15 for the fare? She dug into her pocket and handed coins to the conductor. If you had money, you should have just paid. the conductor muttered as he drove away. Ellen didn't respond. She turned and walked into the alley leading to her house. She just wanted to rest. Her body ached from exhaustion. "Wait up," Vince called behind her. "I just want to say thanks for paying my fare. When I get a job, I'll pay you back." She kept walking, ignoring him. Then one of her neighbors called out, "Ellen, your mom's in jail. Got into another fight at the gambling house and trashed the place. You'll have to pay for damages to get her out. She told me to let you know." Ellen felt the weight of the world crash down on her shoulders. She said nothing and kept walking. But another woman stood in her way, Mrs. Zeller, the old woman her mum owed money to. "There you are, Ellen. I've been waiting all day. Where's your payment for your mum's debt? She still owes me 10 grand, and she borrowed another 5 today. I won't even charge you for the things she destroyed. Just pay the 5 grand. "I haven't gotten paid yet, Mrs. Zeller," Ellen said weakly. "You say that every day. Do you want to end up in jail too, like your mom?" "Then send me to jail," Ellen snapped, unable to hold back anymore. "I'm tired of your daily harassment. If I got paid daily, I'd give you something every day. But you keep loaning money to my mum, knowing she's drowning in debt. Why do you keep saying yes to her?" "She's a thug. If I say no, she threatens me, and you're the one stuck paying her debts, so pay me 5,000 now." "Where do you expect me to get that kind of money? I don't even have enough for dinner. Wait for my paycheck." "I can't. If you don't pay, your mom stays in jail." "Then leave her there," Ellen muttered bitterly as she walked past. "You're a terrible daughter. How can you abandon your mother in jail? If you were my child, I would have disowned you," Mrs. Zeller yelled after her. Ellen ignored the woman and kept walking until she spotted her 16-year-old sister, Brianna, hanging out with a group of drunk teens. She rushed toward her. "Brianna, what are you doing here? Go home. It's late and you're loitering in a sketchy area." She grabbed her sister's arm, but Brianna yanked it away. "Leave me alone, Ellen. I'm staying here. At least here I can eat. At home there's nothing. Mom's always at the casino and now she's in jail. I don't even know where Dad is. He's probably with some woman again. You have a job, but what good is it? We're still starving. You should be glad I'm not relying on you anymore. Get out of my life." Ellen stood there, stunned. Her sister was right. No matter how hard she worked, nothing ever improved. She let Brianna go and walked home alone. The moment she stepped inside, her tears finally spilled. She dropped to the dusty floor, burying her face in her hands. The exhaustion, the pain, the debts, her family's mess, everything crashed down at once. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I give up." She stood up and walked to the kitchen. She opened a drawer and pulled out a knife. Raising it to her wrist, her hand shook as she drew in a breath. But before the blade could touch her skin, a strong hand grabbed the knife. "Don't do it," a calm voice said. Ellen turned, eyes wide and filled with tears. It was him, the stranger, Vince. "What are you doing here?" she cried. "Give that back. I want to die." She tried to snatch the knife, but he wouldn't let go. Her arms pounded weakly against his chest until she collapsed, drained of energy. "Please," she sobbed, "just let me end this. I can't take it anymore." "Taking your life won't solve anything," he said gently, helping her into an old kitchen chair. "No matter how heavy the burden, you'll get through it." She looked up at him. There was no pity in his eyes, only a calm, steady gaze. His voice was soft, but his expression unreadable. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Don't talk like you know me. You don't know anything. You haven't lived my life. You don't know what I've gone through. I'm not someone who gives up easily, but I've had enough. I have no one. The one person I trusted broke me. I just want all of this pain to stop, but you had to stop me." She cried openly now, not caring that he saw her like this. For the first time in a long time, she let someone see her weakness. If you're tired, just rest, Vince said gently. You don't have to be strong every single day. But if you give up now, you'll never know what tomorrow could bring. You might be one day away from a whole new life. Ellen gave a hollow laugh. A new life? You really think that's still possible for someone like me? Vince reached out, holding her hands, and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. Choose to live. I promise, your life will change. That's my vow to you. Her expression softened. She bowed her head and wept quietly. The rage and helplessness in her sobs began to calm, and when Vince pulled her into a warm embrace, something inside her shifted. She didn't understand why, but for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. He stayed with her for hours that night, making sure she didn't try anything again. Once he was confident she'd be okay, he finally left her home. He sat in the back of his car in silence for a long time before calling Louis. The line rang only once. Bro, it's the middle of the night. Is this an emergency? Louis asked groggily. I met Ellen Carter, Vince said. Her life's complicated. So many problems. She's struggling financially and emotionally. I saw how broken she was, Louis. She's not ready for the world I live in. If I push this any further, I might destroy her. She needs someone stronger than she is. She's off the list. He didn't hold back, but Louis replied calmly. Maybe the reason you saw her that way is because you were meant to be the strength she needs. Sometimes, the people who look the weakest are the ones who've been fighting alone the longest. Maybe Ellen is strong, stronger than you think. Maybe you just saw her at her lowest. Vince fell silent. He looked out the window as the car sped along the road. You sound so sure about her, Vince said. Do you know her personally? It's like you've known her all along. Louis chuckled on the other end. I don't, but I can imagine what she's been through. Maybe she's not weak, just tired. Give it time. Spend a week, a month. Get to know her. If she's really not the one, then let her go. But if she is, you might regret walking away. Vince rubbed his brow in frustration. My decision is final, Louis. I can't risk hurting someone like her. She's already been through enough. The least I can do is help her get a good source of income at the mall. If that's what you think is best, I won't stop you, Louis said. But think about what I said. Maybe you'll change your mind. Yeah, I'll think about it, Vince replied. The next day, Vince ordered his assistant to arrange for Ellen to be given a platform in the mall where she could sing regularly. It was a way to give her extra income and use her talent to boost traffic in the mall. Mr. Calvers, everything has been arranged, his assistant reported on the phone. Our staff has spoken to Miss Carter and she agreed. She'll perform for 2 hours daily starting tomorrow. Good, Vince said. What about her janitorial job? Did she quit? We made a generous offer, but she said she's keeping both jobs. She believes she can handle it. That's fine, thank you, Vince said, ending the call. Later that evening, Vince sat at a bench near the bus terminal, where Ellen usually caught her ride home. He tugged on his hoodie and waited. What am I even doing here? He muttered to himself. He hadn't been able to sleep the night before. He kept thinking about Ellen's breakdown, the pain in her voice, the tears she tried to hide, and somehow, in all of it, he saw a strength that both scared and intrigued him. Hey, stranger. He turned toward the voice. There she was, Ellen, wearing a bright smile he hadn't seen before. You again, he said, surprised. She ran up to him and hugged him tightly. He froze in place, caught off guard, his arms eventually rising to wrap around her waist. A new feeling stirred in him. In that moment, his plan changed. He would continue getting to know her until he was certain. Thank you for saving my life, Ellen whispered as she remained in his arms. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have experienced this joy today. Your words brought me back. He looked down at her, still unsure what she meant. "What happened, miss?" he asked, pretending not to know. Ellen stepped back and sat beside him on the bench. But even after letting go of the hug, Vince felt a strange emptiness, as though he wanted to pull her close again. She had cried in his arms just last night. Now she was smiling, and somehow he felt like he had become her source of strength. "I got good news when I came into work this morning," she said. "Someone offered me a side gig, singing in the mall for 2 hours a day. The pay is great. I'll still keep my janitor job, but this feels like the start of something new." She grinned. "Let's celebrate, stranger. My treat. You've been my good luck charm." "Still calling me stranger? I already told you my name," he teased. She laughed and gave his arm a playful slap. "Well, I didn't catch it the first time. Say it again." "Vince, and you?" "You're the one who's been calling me Miss all this time," she said, smiling. "It's Ellen Carter. Now come on, let me buy you a meal. Something affordable, though. I'll treat you to something nicer once I get paid." "You don't have to. No backing out. I said I'd treat you, and I meant it. Come on, I'm starving," she insisted, looping her arm through his and pulling him toward a nearby diner. "Just point to what you want, and I'll pay," she said, once they stepped inside. "You sure?" he asked, hesitant. "You might not have enough. I don't want to add to your expenses." "Don't worry, I've got a little money, and this is my way of saying thank you." Vince tried to act normal, though he had no idea what half the dishes on display even were. He pointed to what looked appetizing, and Ellen placed the order for both of them. Turned out the stew she recommended, something called menudo, was delicious. Vince was pleasantly surprised, especially by how cheap the bill was. Under $10 for both meals. It was a humble dish, but more satisfying than he expected. "So, Vince, do you have a job yet?" Ellen asked as they walked back toward the bus stop. "Still looking? Do you know of any openings?" "Why not try applying as a janitor at the mall? Like I said, someone just left, and I know they're hiring." "I'll give it a try," Vince said. "Where are you staying right now, if you don't have a job yet?" "I'm staying with a friend who drives a bus," he lied smoothly. "Just temporary." "Well, that's good to hear," she smiled. "Okay, I better go. This is the last bus. If I miss it, I won't be able to get home." "Thanks again, Vince, for everything." "Take care, Ellen." She waved before boarding. Vince stood at the curb, watching the bus disappear down the road. When it was gone, he signaled to his waiting driver. "Sir, are we headed back to the mansion?" the driver asked. "Follow that bus." The driver didn't question it. They trailed the bus at a safe distance. Vince's chest didn't relax until he saw Ellen safely get off and walk toward her street. Only then did he say, "Let's go home." In the days that followed, Ellen felt her life beginning to shift. Her side gig at the mall gave her extra income, and for the first time in a long time, her home life was quiet. Her mother had stopped going to casinos. Mrs. Zeller had stopped knocking at their door to demand payments. Her father no longer brought strangers into the house, and, miraculously, Brianna had started attending school again, thanks to a scholarship provided by the city. "Thank you, God, for these blessings," Ellen whispered one morning while sweeping a hallway. After she finished, she headed toward the small stage where she would perform. "Ellen, are you done?" someone called behind her. She turned and smiled. It was Vince. He had been working as a janitor for 3 weeks now, and they shared the same shift. He was holding a mop and a bucket, but somehow still looked striking in his uniform. She had always found it strange. He looked like someone from Money, but his clothes, and especially his cluelessness with cleaning tools, told a different story. She had taught him how to handle all of it. He claimed they didn't have cleaning supplies where he came from, just fields and farmland. I'm almost done, she said. Just wait for me in the staff quarters. We'll head over together. You're watching me perform again, right? Of course, Vince said. I'll be in the crowd, cheering for you. Ellen gave him a look. Just don't be too loud, okay? You embarrassed me last time with all that clapping and yelling. What can I say? I'm your #1 fan, he said proudly. If I admire someone, I say it out loud. You're so dramatic, she said, laughing. He slung an arm over her shoulders as they walked side by side. Ellen had grown used to his presence and didn't pull away when he did things like that. You're lucky to have a #1 fan as handsome and charming as me. You won't find another like me. Ellen laughed again. His silly lines had a way of lightening her mood. Vince had become a comfort to her, and without realizing it, he had helped her move on from her past heartbreak. I guess you're right, she said, with a playful roll of her eyes. I have no choice anyway. You're persistent. Thanks for accepting me, Vince said dramatically, removing his arm from her shoulder and placing his hand over his heart. My heart is singing. You're so over the top, she giggled. They laughed together as they walked into the quarters. But before they reached the stage, Vince excused himself after getting a call. He said he had to meet with someone quickly and would catch up. Ellen's performance came and went, but he didn't return. Where did that guy go? She wondered, scanning the crowd. Then she heard a familiar voice call her name. She turned to see Noah running toward her. The little boy wrapped his arms around her waist in a tight hug. Noah, where's your dad? You shouldn't be walking around alone again, she said with a soft smile. He's with my uncle. They're just talking, Noah replied. Don't worry, my uncle owns this whole mall. Even if I get lost, he'll find me. Ellen chuckled. You and your stories again. Where are they? I'll take you to them. They're in the coffee shop. Come on, I'll take you. Noah took her hand and led her along. Before they even reached the entrance of the coffee shop, Ellen spotted 2 familiar figures seated inside. Meanwhile, Vince sat across from Louis, who had just finished laughing at Vince's janitor uniform. I can't believe you really did this just to get to know your chosen wife, man. Are you falling for her? Louis asked, sipping his coffee. She's a good woman, Vince replied. Any man could fall for her. She's the kind of woman you marry. He smiled as he recalled all their little moments, the shared jokes, cleaning together, the walks home. It surprised him how much he'd come to enjoy her company. Cleaning bathrooms, riding packed buses, even living modestly. It all became tolerable, even enjoyable, because of her. I told you, didn't I? Louis said, grinning. Noah really knows how to pick them, just like his dad. So, Louis continued, leaning back in his chair, when are you going to tell her you're the CEO? And about the marriage contract? Vince crossed his arms and sighed. Soon. He was about to elaborate when Noah's voice broke in. Daddy, Uncle Vince. From the side, Noah rushed up and climbed into Vince's lap. Louis stood up abruptly, his expression shifting as he spotted someone approaching behind them. Ellen, Louis muttered, stunned. Ellen stood at the entrance, her eyes wide, tears brimming as she looked from Vince to Louis, and then back again. You're Noah's uncle, and you're a CEO? She asked, voice trembling. And you know him? She added, pointing at Louis. Her hand shook. I can explain, Vince said quickly, rising to his feet. Yes, I know Louis. He's married to my cousin. Ellen smiled bitterly as tears rolled down her cheeks. It hurts twice as much now, she whispered. Vince stepped toward her, but she backed away. I thought you were different, but you're just like everyone else. You pretended so well, but in the end, you're just another liar. I let myself believe you wouldn't hurt me, but I was wrong. She turned to leave. Ellen, please, let me explain everything, Vince called after her. She didn't stop walking. I was going to tell you. I just didn't expect you'd find out this way, he said, his voice desperate. I don't believe you, Vince. Go be with him, she spat, nodding toward Louis. You deserve each other. She stormed out of the coffee shop. Vince moved to follow her, but Louis stopped him with a hand on his arm. Vince stared at him, fury written across his face. I want the truth, Louis. Did you know Ellen before Noah picked her? Louis lowered his head. Guilty. He exhaled slowly before answering. Yes, I met Ellen 2 years ago at a singing competition she entered. Back then, my wife and I were separated. I was drawn to her. His voice was quiet, filled with remorse. We were in a relationship for a year. Vince clenched both fists. If Noah hadn't been sitting nearby, he might have punched Louis right then and there. I'm sorry I kept it from you, Louis said. I didn't think it was relevant. We ended things cleanly, but when Noah chose her, I recognized her. I didn't stop it because I knew you'd like her too. Vince's jaw tensed. I swear it's over between us. It's not why she's hurting right now. She's hurt because you lied. Vince didn't answer. His fists slowly unclenched, but the fury in his eyes remained. You should be glad you're moving abroad, he said coldly. I don't want to see your face ever again. With that, he turned and left the coffee shop in search of Ellen. He checked their shared quarters. Empty. He went to the stage where she usually sang. No sign of her. Left with no choice, he went to mall security and requested footage. She had already exited the mall. He rushed to the bus stop. Nothing. He drove to her house. Still nothing. Her phone was off, and there was no way to reach her. Ellen, where are you? He murmured, defeated. Inside a fine dining restaurant, Ellen sat across from a woman whose elegant posture and polished beauty couldn't hide the edge in her eyes. She had intercepted Ellen outside the mall and introduced herself as a songwriter and producer interested in signing her. But that wasn't the real reason for the meeting. Relax, Miss Carter. I'm just here to talk, the woman said smoothly. I'm Karina Sevilla. Sorry for the fake introduction earlier. I'm not a producer. I only said that so you'd come with me. Karina smiled politely, but Ellen felt a surge of irritation. So, if you're not a producer, then why am I here? Ellen asked bluntly. I'm Vince Calver's fiancé, Karina said, sipping her wine with poise. You do know who he is, don't you? The words made Ellen's shoulders stiffen. Her irritation flared hotter. If you're his fiancé, why aren't you with him right now? Ellen asked, trying to keep her voice level. Karina smirked and swirled her glass. Because I needed to talk to you first. Look, I don't like you. I don't have to. But I wanted to be the one to make things clear. Vince and I are getting married, so back off. Ellen let out a quiet laugh, lifting her own glass and finishing the wine in one gulp. She set it back down with a clink and looked Karina straight in the eye. If that's true, then why isn't he with you? He's the one who's been following me around, not the other way around. Maybe you should be talking to him, not me. Karina's expression tightened, though she maintained her poise. Honestly, I don't care what he's been doing. All I care about is making sure he doesn't ruin himself for a girl like you. Vince is the CEO of Calver's Corporation. What do you think people will say when they see him with someone like you? It'll be humiliating for all of us. Ellen chuckled, but her grip on the wineglass tightened. You should probably be telling that to Vince, she said. He's the one pretending to be a janitor just to hang around me. Karina's smile returned, but this one was thin, tight. Good, at least you know your place. I'm glad you understand what this is. I don't think you get it, Ellen replied. If this is really about keeping up appearances, then you need to go talk to the man you're supposedly engaged to. Not me. Karina leaned forward slightly. Fine. Since you're being direct, let me return the favor. Do you really think your little performances at the mall happened by chance? Vince made those happen. He's the reason your sister got a scholarship. He paid off your mother's debt. He gave your family the fresh start you're so thankful for. Ellen froze. Karina smiled triumphantly. And I didn't stop him. I let him help you. But it ends here. I'm asking you to walk away. Understand? Ellen folded her arms. You're making it sound like I stole something from you. Karina met her stare. I'm telling you to avoid heartbreak. I'm not afraid of you. I'm just trying to save you from falling harder. You seem like you're already halfway there. Ellen didn't flinch. Thanks for the warning. Now everything's crystal clear. She stood slowly, her expression calm, despite the storm rising in her chest. You don't have to worry. I won't hold on to something that was never mine. She walked out without another word, but tears started falling before she reached the sidewalk. That conversation was all the reminder she needed. She couldn't let herself fall any deeper. Ellen spent the rest of the evening at a public park, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. Earlier, she thought she was finally free from the pain her ex had caused her, but now she realized she had been more affected by Vince's secrecy than she'd been willing to admit. It was past midnight when she finally decided to go home, but as she turned into the alley leading to her house, she stopped short. Vince was there, standing at the entrance. She drew in a breath and tried to steel herself. He looked up at her and walked toward her without a word. As soon as he reached her, he pulled her into a tight hug. Where did you go, Ellen? He whispered. Why was your phone off? I was worried sick. I thought something happened to you. Ellen stood stiffly in his arms, her voice flat. I met your fiancé. Vince stepped back, brows furrowed. Fiancé? Who? I get it. You wanted to hide her, just like you hid everything else about you. I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, who am I to demand honesty from a CEO? I'm just a janitor, and you're my boss. She forced a bitter smile. Still, thank you for helping my family, for everything. Just, please don't take my job away. We still need that. Vince reached for her arm. Ellen, I'm not taking anything back. Whoever told you she's my fiancé lied to you. I don't have a fiancé because I'm already married. Her eyes widened, and it felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. Her worst fear, the pattern repeating itself. Then it's worse than I thought, she said quietly. First Lou, now you, another married man. She turned away from him, trying to leave, but he gently grabbed her arm and turned her to face him. His hands moved to her cheeks, and his eyes searched hers. Do you love me, Ellen? She couldn't speak, couldn't move. She was afraid to answer. Go home, Vince, she said, voice trembling. I want to rest. But he wouldn't let her go. He pulled her into an embrace from behind, holding her tightly against his chest. Please, just tell me the truth. I need to hear it. She laughed bitterly through her tears. And what then? So I can be hurt again? I already went through this with Lou. He never told me he had a wife and kid. Even though they were separated, they were still married. For a whole year, I was the other woman, and I didn't even know. I won't let that happen again. I just want to know if you love me. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Yes, I love you. I don't know when it started, but I know it's real. But we can't do this. Let me go, Vince. How can I let you go? He said softly, when you're already my wife. Ellen froze. Her breath caught in her throat as he stepped in front of her, facing her fully. You remember that contract Noah asked you to sign? He said gently. It wasn't a joke. It was a legal marriage contract. We're married, Ellen. It's real. I needed a wife who wouldn't care about my status or wealth, and Noah chose you. She stepped back, eyes darting. This is crazy. I don't understand. I needed a wife, not someone I had to pay to stay, but someone who would love me for who I am. That's why I hid my identity. I needed to know if you'd still choose me. And now that I know how you feel, he continued, I'm certain. Ellen Carter, you are my wife, not just on paper, but in heart. Ellen stared at him, overwhelmed. But why me, Vince? You could have anyone. Because most women only see my money, but not you. You treated me like an ordinary man, and I wanted that more than anything. He paused, then added, When I saw you crying in your kitchen that night, I just wanted to protect you. Then when you hugged me at the bus terminal, I knew. I didn't want to leave your side again. She slowly stepped back, rubbing her temples. The reality was too much to absorb all at once. Let's talk about this later, she said softly. I need to rest. Vince nodded, though reluctance lingered in his eyes. All right, take your time. I'll take you home. But I can go alone. She walked past him without looking back, and for the first time, Vince didn't stop her. The next morning, Ellen couldn't stop thinking about Vince's confession. Her shift started early, but she worked mechanically, sleep-deprived and emotionally drained. Ellen, you're cleaning the CEO's office today. Her supervisor barked. Mom, I haven't finished the hallway yet. I still need to clean the restroom. Are you refusing my orders? The supervisor snapped, cutting her off. When I say you're cleaning somewhere, you clean there. No questions. And you better hurry up. If Mr. Calvers walks into a dirty office, it's your job on the line. Ellen didn't argue further. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and made her way to the top floor. It was strange, though. Her supervisor had never allowed anyone else to clean the CEO's office before. She always did it herself. Maybe she hadn't seen Vince yet in person. If she had, she would have recognized him by now. Inside the CEO's office, Ellen felt small. Everything was polished and extravagant. The furnishings were elegant, the lighting soft and warm. On the wall hung a large portrait of Vince, looking sharp and powerful in a tailored suit. She stared at the painting for a few seconds, heart pounding. He really is the CEO, she whispered to herself. She quickly got to work, wanting to finish before he showed up. She wasn't ready to see him, not yet. She wiped down the desk, dusted the shelves, and mopped the floor. She was nearly done when she heard footsteps approaching in the hallway. She rushed to leave, but froze when she saw Vince walking toward her, flanked by 5 impeccably dressed businessmen. Panicked, she moved to the side, bowed her head slightly, and hoped to remain invisible. She expected them to walk right past her, but they stopped. Face me, Vince said in his usual commanding voice. She didn't move at first. Then she felt him step forward, and before she could react, he gently kissed the top of her head. She looked up, shocked, and before she could speak, he kissed her lips in front of everyone. Her face flushed red. She was sure every drop of blood in her body had rushed to her cheeks. Good morning, my wife, he said with a smile. She was too stunned to respond. Thank you for cleaning my office, but you don't have to anymore. You're my wife, my queen, and the queen should be beside her king. I need you with me. Ellen's heart raced at the sound of his soft, affectionate voice, but when she glanced at the men behind him and saw the disapproval in their eyes, embarrassment surged through her. Excuse me, sir, she mumbled quickly before hurrying away, head down. She couldn't take another second of being stared at like that. Once she was out of sight, she whispered to herself, Why did you do that? She tried not to feel giddy, but the butterflies wouldn't stop. Despite everything, she couldn't deny it anymore. She was falling for him, and fast. In the following days, Ellen deliberately avoided Vince. She asked her supervisor to assign someone else to clean the CEO's office. Even when she was scolded, she insisted. She also became extra cautious while performing at her singing spot. She stayed on her small podium and wouldn't step away until Vince was no longer nearby. She avoided eye contact and quickly left once her set was over. She didn't answer his calls or texts, and when he stopped by her house, she refused to come out. Somehow she had managed to avoid him for an entire week, but one morning everything changed. She arrived at the mall and was stunned to see a large music video playing on the massive screen outside the building. Her jaw dropped. There on the screen were pictures, photos of her and Vince eating together at a small diner, riding the bus, walking through her neighborhood, cleaning the hallways, sitting together with Vince resting his head on her lap. The images were candid, taken from multiple angles, and full of joy. They looked like they belonged in a photo album of a couple deeply in love. Tears welled in Ellen's eyes. She hadn't even realized they'd been captured. "That man is insane," she muttered under her breath, wiping her cheeks. "I only go crazy when I miss my wife." She spun around and saw Vince standing behind her, a soft smile on his face. "Vince," she whispered, "how did you get those photos? Who took them?" "There are cameras everywhere, Ellen," he replied calmly. "I didn't need a photographer, and if you try to avoid me again, that won't be the last thing I do. I'll have your face painted on every wall in the mall if I have to." "Vince, there's nothing between us," she said firmly. "We're not in a relationship. We're not a couple. Why are you doing all this?" "You're my wife," he said, "and as your husband, I want to be with you. Haven't I done enough to prove that I'm serious?" He handed her a piece of paper. She unfolded it, and there it was, the marriage contract, the same one she had signed, thinking it was a child's game. "Vince, I accept you. I accept who you are. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around this. You're the CEO, my husband. That makes me, what, the owner of this mall too?" "It's a lot to take in, I know," he said. "But this is real. I'm real. We're married, and if you need time to adjust, I'll give you that. Just stay by my side while you do." "Vince, stop. I'm not asking for anything more than your presence. Just don't hide from me anymore." Ellen hesitated. How could she say no when he was standing there, completely sincere? She looked up at him, then nodded slowly. "All right, I'll try. I do want to be with you. I'm just not used to your world." "Then I'll help you get used to it," he said. She smiled faintly and stepped into his embrace. Maybe, she thought, this wasn't a dream, after all. As they had agreed, Ellen continued doing the things she loved, even after Vince publicly introduced her as his wife, and she moved into his mansion. She still worked as a janitor, but everything around her changed. Her co-workers treated her differently. None of them wanted her to clean anymore. Her once rude supervisor became strangely friendly, almost overly polite. She didn't like the shift in behavior. It felt fake. She resigned from her janitorial position. "I'll just hang around Vince's office," she said with a chuckle as she headed to the 4th floor one afternoon. But on the way up, she ran into Karina. Eyebrow arched, Karina gave her a slow once-over, eyeing Ellen's uniform. "I thought we had an understanding, Miss Carter," she said coolly. "But now I'm hearing that you've been going around claiming to be the CEO's wife. Wasn't the help he gave your family enough?" She opened her purse and pulled out a thick stack of cash, throwing it in Ellen's direction. Ellen caught it instinctively. a $100,000 bundle. The top bill confirmed it. "That should be enough to get you to walk away." Ellen peeled off the band around the money and smiled. "Thanks, but I don't need your money. My husband is enough." She turned, walked to the rail overlooking the lower floor, and threw the entire stack into the air. People below gasped and scrambled to grab the raining bills. Karina stood frozen, speechless. "Just so we're clear," Ellen said, turning back, "you have no claim over Vince. He's my husband. You don't have to accept it, but you will have to live with it." "My wife is right, Miss Sevilla," Vince's voice cut in. Ellen's face lit up as he approached. He pulled her into a hug and pressed a gentle kiss to her lips. With one arm still around her waist, Vince turned to Karina. I know what you're trying to do, but let's be clear. Your family needs my company more than I need yours. If you want our business partnership to move forward, stay away from my wife. If not, the deal's off. Karina's professional mask returned. I look forward to our partnership, Mr. Calvus, but if you go back on your word, I won't let either of you live in peace. Then prepare the paperwork, Vince said coolly. You'll have my signature by the end of the week. He took Ellen's hand and led her away as Karina turned and walked off. Are you really going to do business with her? Ellen asked, concerned. What if she doesn't keep her word and still tries to interfere? She got what she wanted. That deal matters to her family. She won't ruin it now. What about the board? Ellen asked quietly. Are they still pushing you about being married? They stopped, Vince replied. They've seen I'm serious. There's no issue anymore. Good, she said, with a relieved smile. Don't worry about her. Let's just go on a date. I feel like you've got another surprise planned. I do, he said, grinning. And after today, you deserve it. She looped her arm through his, and together they left. Ellen sat on the grand piano bench, gazing at the massive chandelier above her. She still couldn't get used to the mansion. The elegance of it all felt surreal. What are you thinking about? Vince asked, walking toward her with a glass of juice in hand. Everything, she said, accepting the drink. Sometimes it still feels like I'm dreaming. You're not, he said, sitting beside her. You're wide awake, and you're mine. She smiled but didn't respond right away. Her thoughts were elsewhere. You know what hurts the most? She finally said. It's not the way people used to look down on me, or the years I spent scraping by. What hurts is thinking my name doesn't matter, that I could disappear and no one would even notice. Vince took her hand. Your name matters to me. I used to tell myself that one day I'd become someone, not rich or powerful, just someone people remember, someone who matters to even just one person. You matter to me, he said softly, and not because you're my wife, but because of who you are. You could have walked away when things got hard, but you didn't. You stayed strong, and you've made it here, with your own strength. Ellen turned to him, eyes misty. I want to make something of myself, she whispered. Not as your wife, but as Ellen Carter, on my own terms. Vince nodded. Then do it. Whatever it is, I'll support you. She looked down at their intertwined hands. Thank you. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, he said. But if proving it to yourself helps, then I'll be right beside you the whole way. Ellen smiled, her heart full. Maybe the name Ellen Carter had started out as a forgotten one, but now it carried meaning, because she had finally found someone who would remember it, no matter what. The sound of Ellen's heels echoed against the polished marble of Calvus Corporation's executive hallway. She was no longer the woman who used to clean these floors. She now walked them with purpose, her shoulders straight, her head high. Inside the main boardroom, the directors were seated, waiting for Vince. He arrived a few moments later, his tailored navy suit sharp, his presence commanding. At his side was Ellen, confident, composed, and unshaken. The board members exchanged glances. It had been weeks since the CEO had brought up his marriage, and yet here he was, walking in with the very woman the gossip mills had been buzzing about. She's with me, Vince said, pulling out a chair for Ellen before taking his seat at the head of the table. We weren't expecting her, one of the senior members muttered. I didn't ask for your expectations, Vince replied calmly. This is my wife. Her presence here concerns you only because you made it a point to question her place in my life. Now I'm making it clear. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a black folder. "Inside this is a revised contract," he said. "The deal with the Sevilla family is signed, but I've added stipulations. If they violate any terms, especially with regard to harassment toward my wife, the deal becomes null and void. That includes interference in both public and private affairs." He passed the folder to the legal counsel. Ellen sat quietly beside him, her expression unreadable. She wasn't intimidated, not anymore. She had learned to sit still in a storm. One of the board members finally cleared his throat. "We've had concerns, Mr. Calvers," he said, "about transparency, about your decisions, about her influence." "Then let me put your concerns to rest," Vince replied, folding his hands. "My marriage is no longer open to discussion. Ellen is not a liability, she is my decision. If you trust me to lead this company, then you trust the judgment that brought her into my life." He glanced across the room. "If you don't, we can put my leadership to a vote right now." Silence filled the room. No one spoke, not a single hand moved. Finally, the chairman nodded. "Very well, Mr. Calvers," he said. "We'll proceed with the deal under the terms you've added." "Good," Vince said, standing. "Then this meeting is over." He extended his hand to Ellen. She took it without hesitation. Together they walked out of the room, their steps matching, their presence unified. Outside the boardroom, Vince stopped and turned to her. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "I know that wasn't easy." "I didn't do it for them," Ellen replied. "I did it for me, to show myself I could." He smiled, proud. "And you did." It had been a long week of back-to-back meetings, contract negotiations, and quiet nights at home. Vince barely had time to breathe. Ellen, too, had thrown herself into her singing, honing her voice, writing new pieces, and quietly building her name without leaning on her husband's. But on Friday afternoon, the mall was buzzing. Ellen's soft voice floated through the atrium as she sang from the small stage near the center court. Shoppers gathered around, drawn by her melody. It was the kind of voice that could hush a crowd, that made people forget about their errands for just a little while. Vince stood at the second-floor balcony, overlooking the scene. His eyes never left her. Even dressed simply in jeans and a blouse, Ellen shone. He was so caught up in the moment that he didn't notice the person who had walked up beside him. "Your wife is something else," said the chairman of the board, quietly impressed. "We may have misjudged her." Vince didn't take his eyes off her. "She doesn't need your approval, but I'm glad you're finally seeing her for who she is." Below, Ellen finished her song. Applause erupted. Someone in the crowd shouted her name, and others began chanting, "Encore! Encore!" Ellen smiled, a little shy, and stepped back to the mic. "This one's for someone who saw me when I felt invisible," she said, "who reminded me I still matter." She began singing again, and this time her voice trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from emotion. Vince felt his chest tighten. Every note she sang felt like it was written just for him. For all their misunderstandings, for all the hurt, for the truth that had brought them together anyway. He knew now without a doubt that no matter what came next, this was the woman he would choose every time. And this time, she had chosen him back, without conditions. The following morning, Ellen found a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter, with her name handwritten in neat cursive. She opened it carefully and unfolded the note inside. "To my wife, I know I can be overbearing sometimes. I've thrown surprises at you without warning, made decisions I thought were for your good without always asking if that's what you wanted. But today, I'm asking. There's a gala tonight, our company's annual charity event. Everyone important will be there. I want you to come. Not as the performer, not as a guest, but as my wife. I want them to see the woman I chose. Not because she fits a mold, but because she broke it. Your dress is waiting upstairs. Wear it if you want to come. If not, I'll understand. Always yours, Vince. Ellen folded the letter slowly and held it against her chest for a moment. Later that evening, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, dressed in a floor-length gown in deep navy blue. The dress hugged her figure perfectly, elegant but simple, exactly her style. Her hair was pulled back into soft waves, and she wore no jewelry except the wedding band Vince had given her. At the gala, people turned as she entered the ballroom. Conversations paused, eyes followed her. She searched the crowd until she saw him, Vince, standing near the stage in a classic black tuxedo, talking with a group of executives. When their eyes met, he froze mid-sentence. He excused himself immediately and walked toward her. "You came?" he said, his voice full of quiet awe. "I told you I'd try," she said, with a soft smile. "You look stunning." "And you," she said, straightening his tie, "look like you run the world." He chuckled, offering his arm. "Come meet the people who once doubted you." She hesitated. "Do I have to?" "No," he said sincerely, "but I want them to know how proud I am. I want them to see what love looks like when it's real." Ellen placed her hand gently on his arm. "Then let's go." Together, they walked into the crowd, no longer hiding, no longer unsure. And as they stood before the people who once questioned their story, they didn't need to say much at all. Their presence said everything. Weeks passed, and the rhythm of Ellen and Vince's life began to settle into something real. There were quiet mornings, late-night conversations, shared breakfasts, and evenings where they laughed about small things over takeout. But one evening, as thunder rumbled outside and heavy rain poured against the mansion's windows, Ellen stood by the glass, lost in thought. Vince came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You okay?" he asked, resting his chin on her shoulder. She didn't answer immediately. "I was just thinking," she finally said, "about how fast everything happened, about how it still feels a little unreal." He kissed her temple. "It's real. All of it. You, me, this life we're building." "I know," she said softly, "but sometimes I wonder how long it'll last." Vince turned her gently to face him. "Ellen, I didn't marry you just to have someone beside me at meetings or to satisfy board members. I married you because even before I knew it, my heart had already chosen you." She looked up at him, eyes filled with uncertainty. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I was saving this for the right moment," he said, "but maybe now's better." Inside was a diamond ring, delicate, timeless, nothing flashy. Ellen gasped. "But we're already married." "I know, but this is the proposal you never got," Vince said with a small smile. "The real one, no tricks, no contracts, just a man who's hopelessly in love, asking his wife if she'll choose him again." Her breath caught. "And not just today," he added, "but every day after this, for the rest of our lives." Tears welled in her eyes. She laughed through them, unable to speak at first. Finally she whispered, "Yes, yes, I'll choose you." Again and again. He slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss. Outside, the rain fell harder, but inside, nothing could shake the warmth between them. Ellen stood backstage, gripping the microphone with trembling fingers. The auditorium was packed, the largest crowd she'd ever sung for. The event had been arranged by Calver's Corporation to raise funds for a nationwide education initiative, and Vince had insisted she be the closing act. But this time, it wasn't Vince's encouragement she remembered. It was her own. She took a deep breath, stepped into the light, and began to sing. Her voice rang clear, filling the room like water spilling into an empty vessel. From the very first note, the room hushed, as if the entire crowd had been holding its breath, and finally exhaled. She sang of struggle, of survival, of being invisible and finally seen, of pain and of healing, of choosing to live, despite everything. And when she finished, there was a moment of silence before the crowd erupted in applause, rising to its feet. Ellen bowed, tears in her eyes. Later that night, back at the mansion, she sat on the balcony with Vince, her head resting on his shoulder, their fingers interlaced. "Remember when you asked me what I wanted to be?" she said softly. "You said you just wanted to be someone who mattered," he replied. She looked out at the stars. "I don't need a stage or a title anymore. I just want to matter to the people I love, to you, to myself." Vince turned to her and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "You matter more than you'll ever know." She smiled and leaned into him, her heart steady. No longer running, no longer afraid. She had found her voice, her strength, and her home in his arms. The end.